Hey there, J3 here, and woohoo! Welcome back to the 5 Rules of Wealth training. Follow these 5 rules and you will gain wealth, but if you ignore or don't follow these rules, then you'll end up with financial struggle and poverty. Now, we are now on lesson number 2, where we will take on rules 3 and 4. And this deals with the choice of wealth, meaning what does it mean to actually choose wealth? But before I jump into the lessons, I just want to make sure if you're watching this that you've already watched or read part 1 and did the exercise, which was about the nature of wealth. I won't do any recaps here to respect the time of those who invested their time in part 1. So if you don't know rules 1 and 2 yet, and if you haven't done the worksheets, please check that out first. There's a link somewhere above on this page where you can go back to the first part of this training. Go and do that first, then come back here. Okay? Great! Now that everyone here watching has the right foundation for desiring more wealth, then let's now go into how do you choose wealth. Here's rule number 3. Wealth is the hard choice. Choose it anyway. Let's break that down into the big ideas. Number 1, wealth is a choice. Number 2, wealth is often the hard choice. But number 3, we choose it anyway. So, first idea, wealth is a choice. I'd like to begin this lesson with a quick story from my childhood when I was about 7 or 8 years old. So our family just finished eating dinner. We were eating at our parents' bedroom while watching TV. And when we were done, the plates had to be brought out back into the kitchen. Now, being the youngest, the job was passed on to me. Ako yung bunso eh. So, I stacked the plates on top of each other, and as I was carrying the plates back into the kitchen, one of the plates fell out. And the sound of the plate breaking on the floor was loud enough to be heard from my parents' room. So, my mom came out angry and pinagalitan ako. And I said what any kid would have said. Hindi ko naman sinasadya eh. You know, it was not done on purpose. My mom then replied, yun nga eh, hindi mo sinasadyang mabasag yung plato pero sinadya mo bang mag-ingat? You didn't want the plate to be broken, but did you choose to be extra careful? That night, I learned 2 very important lessons. First was that you can't win any argument with your mother. Wala ka talagang laban. And second was that everything is a choice. Relating the story to our topic of wealth, I didn't choose the plate to fall off and get broken. In the same way, people don't really choose to be poor. But my breaking the plate was a result of not choosing to be careful. In the same way, poverty is also a result of not choosing to be wealthy. This is what rule number 3 is about. Wealth is a choice, while poverty is a result of not making that choice. And I'd like to contrast this with a belief many other people have that wealth is not a choice but instead by chance. That to become wealthy, either you're supposed to be born rich or you're supposed to win the lotto or you marry someone who's already rich. All of it is based on chance. But if we keep thinking that wealth is by chance, then it's never going to happen. The wonderful reality is every day we are making decisions. And these decisions could make us wealthier or poorer. And actually, if a decision doesn't make you wealthy, most likely it's making you poorer. This brings us to the second idea, that wealth is often the harder choice. Take this for example. Anton wants to buy a new laptop and it costs 80,000 pesos. But he can't afford it yet. So, what are his options? Option 1, buy the laptop on installment plan, 24 months to pay. Option 2, save up for the laptop and buy it later when he can pay it in full. Or option 3, forget about his desire to buy a laptop. Now, let me tell you upfront, all the options here can work for Anton. Whether he takes the installment plan or chooses to save and buy later or chooses to forget about his want to get a new laptop. If this was an exam, there are no clear right or purely wrong answers. But instead, let's look at the values that Anton would be displaying if he chooses each option. Take note that Anton here is just a hypothetical example, and we don't know everything about him and why he wants that laptop. But what can we tell about Anton if he decides to get the laptop, even if he can't afford it yet, but instead chooses to pay it in 24 months? Does this mean that Anton is a little bit impulsive? Does it mean that he's impatient? Does he lack the discipline to save? Or is Anton really determined to get that laptop? What if Anton chooses to save instead and pay for it in full? What are the values that he would be displaying? Does this mean he's disciplined and responsible? Or maybe he values owning things 100% and seeing things through? What if Anton chooses to forget about his want of the laptop? Does this mean that Anton is already content and does not desire material things and practices self-denial? Or does this mean Anton easily gives up on his wants and instead makes excuses? Again, Anton is just a made-up example here, and you might think we're reading too much into it. But when you start to look at the values behind each option, a better choice starts to emerge more clearly. And I hope you see this too, that the values of determination, of self-discipline, of persistence are best displayed when Anton chooses option 2, to save and pay for the laptop in full, which is also the choice that leads to real wealth. This is what we mean by saying wealth is often the harder choice. Among the 3 options, the hardest choice is to save and buy the laptop in full. It's much easier to just take out the installment plan to enjoy now and pay later. It's much easier to just forget about the desire of wanting that laptop. It's so easy, you can just do nothing. But the hardest option is the one that makes the most financial sense. Save money, be patient, pay for it in full. That's what wealthy people would choose. And in many other scenarios, it's also the same way, where the harder choice leads to the wealthier and brighter financial future. For instance, as a parent, isn't it easier to not save up for our child's college fund? After all, they can just go to free public school. Why not just travel all the time? Isn't that more fun? Or isn't it easier not to bother with retirement and, enjoy the money now and instead rely on our children's income when they graduate? After all, you also made sacrifices when they were growing up, right? I know that sounds so wrong because it's easier to be impulsive, it's easier to just borrow money, it's easier to waste away the hours after work on social media or on games, it's easier to depend on someone else, it's easier to not have to figure out how to save and invest, it's easier to not to canvas and compare prices and just buy the first thing you see, it's easier to not give to charity and just look out for yourself, it's easier to YOLO and figure out the future later. But if we keep making these easy choices, not only will they lead to poverty in finances, but also a poverty in values and morality. It's harder to get up in the morning, show up in your work and give it your best so that you can provide for the future of your children. It's harder to start that side business or side hustle after office hours when you're so exhausted so that you can have more time with your family in the future. It's harder to stay disciplined and patient and save up for your dreams. It's harder to have that advocacy in helping those who cannot help themselves. The decisions that lead to wealth are often the harder choices, but we choose to make them anyway because of who we become in the process. That by figuring out and developing the hard skills of how to get out of debt, how to increase your income, how to make that budget work, how to save, how to protect yourself and your family with insurance, how to invest, how to start that business, how to grow your passive income. In figuring those things out, you become a better parent, a better son, a better daughter, a better leader, a better friend, a better coworker, a better person. By making these hard choices, you grow as a person. And that's why, even if wealth is the harder choice, we choose them anyway. This is the core principle of rule number 3. Wealth is the hard choice. We choose it anyway. Okay? So you probably were not expecting that rule to go so deep into our core values, but many financial trainers forget to teach this part about becoming wealthy, even if it's the most meaningful part of the journey. This is also the reason why many people who want to become rich never become wealthy as well. It's because their desire for wealth is just for wealth's sake. It's not tied into their own personal values in life. But now you know that by choosing to become wealthy, you are forced to get clear with your values and demonstrate and model those values in the world. Now, if rule number 3 was the emotional and the subjective part of choosing wealth, in rule number 4, we'll talk about the logical side. Rule number 4 is wealth is compounding. Begin today. So let's break this down into its main ideas. Number 1, wealth is compounding. In a short moment, I'll explain what compounding means. And no, this is not just about compounding interest for those who might be thinking too far in advance. Then number 2 is why must you begin choosing wealth today? So in order to explain first what compounding is, I believe the best way is to share another story with you of my financial struggle many years ago and what helped me overcome it. I share this with you also to give you an idea on where what I'm able to teach you today comes from. So we start in the year 2010. I was a fresh grad earning about 18,000 a month. I was working as an instructor in the University of the Philippines in industrial engineering, which was also my undergrad. Now, UP, even though it's one of the top universities in the Philippines, at the end of the day, it's still a government-run institution. And as you may know, our government can sometimes be inefficient. So even though I started work in June of 2010, and I remember this vividly, that when our department secretary was handing out the pay slips to everyone, he came to my desk and said, J3, sorry, pinaprocess pa yung papers mo, baka yung sweldo mo next month okay na. But the next month came and it was the same thing. Pay slips to everyone, but I didn't get mine. This went on for 7 months. So nagtatrabaho na ako, pero walang sweldo. It was not until January, the following year, that I received my salary. So how did I survive? Well, in growing up, I always kept reading books about how to become rich, and a few of the things I learned early on was to avoid debt, to not borrow money, and how to be frugal, paano magtipid, and maghanap ng racket. So, during the 7 months when my salary was delayed, I made it a point to never borrow money or even ask money from my parents. My belief there is that napag-graduate na nila ako. So, dapat kaya ko na on my own. I looked for side projects and mga racket so that I could have a source of income. And todo tipid na rin, keeping my expenses to a minimum. Monay with cheese for breakfast, turon with cheese for lunch. Now, come January the following year, finally, dumating na ang sweldo. I received all of my salary 7 months worth. It was 6 figures, more than 100,000 pesos. And it was the largest sum of money that I had ever seen. All of it was savings, a result of hard work and sacrifice. Meanwhile, some of my colleagues who also experienced delays in their salary, well, they took the more traditional, easier path. They borrowed money, saying that they'll just pay it back when they get their salary. So, when they also received their 100,000 plus pesos, halos lahat na ubos din pangbayad ng utang. It was as if they earned nothing after 7 months, while here I was having 100,000 plus in pure savings. Now, with 100,000, I started investing in the stock market. And that year in particular was a good year for the stock market. So lumaki pa lalo ang savings. After 2 years, I had saved enough capital for me to resign and survive for the next 6 months while I was starting a business. Now, within 4 months of starting a business, I was already earning the same amount I was earning in UP. And in the coming months and years, it would continue to grow. And as the business grew, I came to connect and network with other entrepreneurs. And the partnerships from those became profitable as well. Now, the main point of this story, it's not about investing in stocks. It's not about starting a business or working in UP as a teacher. No. The main point here is the power of compounding. Because of the skill of avoiding debt, finding ways to earn part-time, and sticking to a budget, I was able to save money. Because of the skill of saving, I was able to invest. Because of investing, I was able to start a business. And because of business, I now have more options available to me to grow my money even further. The way wealth works is that the more money skills you develop, the easier it will be for you to reach the next level. That's compounding. When you learn how to get out and avoid debts, it's going to be easier for you to save money. When it's easier for you to save money, it's going to make it easier for you to understand and start investing. When you start investing, you can let your money make more money for you, and thereby you can save more money. And when you can save more money, you can invest more money. And when you start a business that can give you passive income, you unlock more of your time to create more income, which you then can invest and earn you more income. Think of money skills as having a multiplicative effect on your financial status. So let's say your skills of earning money right now and saving money and investing money can be given a rating of 0 to 5. 0 is the lowest, 5 is the highest. Now let's say that the person has the following skill set. Earning money, 3, saving money, 2, and investing money, 1. So the score here would be 3 times 2 times 1 equals 6 points. And this is all arbitrary. But let's say he improves his investing skill by reading books and attending seminars, and he moves it up by 2 points. From an investing skill rating of 1, it becomes a 3. Now, his score doesn't just improve by 2 points. The new score will now be 3 times 2 times 3. That's 18. From a score of 6 points, all of a sudden it became 18. A 2-point skill increase in investing resulted to a 12-point increase in the final score. And that's how developing money skills improves your financial situation. That's compounding in action. Now, before I move forward into the second idea of rule number 4, there's one more thing that I'd like to warn you about. And these are the zeros in your money skills. In school, we learned that 0 times any number equals 0, diba? Sadly, the same thing happens when it comes to our money skills and its effect on our score. Let's say a person has a rating of 5 when it comes to earning money and 4 when it comes to saving and budgeting, but a 0 in investing. Well, his score will end up to be a 0 in the end. And this example is actually what you see with many OFWs who work hard, earn a lot, and are able to save a lot, but failed to study investing. And so with a lot of capital, they invest everything into a bad investment, or worse, they get scammed. And everything they worked hard for is gone, back to 0. The good news is, the moment this OFW, who is bad at investing, develops the skill of investing while maintaining the higher income and discipline in saving, they can quickly get back on their feet and recover and build a better financial foundation. So, even if compounding has worked against you in the past, remember that there's always hope. There's always a way to get back what has been lost and do better next time. This time, using compounding to your advantage. Now, there's one more aspect to compounding that I hope to share with you today. And this will totally change the way you approach your financial goals and your financial education. And this is, compounding happens across generations. This means that whatever you achieve financially today doesn't affect just you, but the people all around you. It will affect your parents, your children, and their children, and the next generations. Think about what happens if a retired couple isn't able to prepare for their retirement. Well, they would have to depend on their children. Now, their children will have to divide their earnings with their parents as they raise their children and start their own family, which makes it harder for them to also save and prepare for their retirement. And so, the third generation will have to support the second generation and will also burden the next generation. The cycle of dependency continues from generation to generation. Wealth is never built, and this is the case for many Filipino families. But what if you are able to prepare for your retirement and you don't have to depend on your children? What would that look like? Then it means your children can focus on growing their starting family, can send their children to good schools while preparing for their own retirement. Maybe even leave a good inheritance behind, whether it's in the form of a home or a trust fund. Now, their children with more financial resources can take advantage of more opportunities. And if the right values of hard work and discipline are transferred as well, then you can expect that they too will be able to pave the way for the next generation. And so here, wealth is built, it accumulates, it compounds. And remember, When you pass on something to the next generation, it's not just wealth, it's also the values that built up that wealth. When you model to your children that you are financially responsible, they will also pick up on those habits and skills as they grow up. Compounding is so powerful that once you are aware of its consequences, we really have no choice but to, and this is the second part of our rule, you have no choice but to begin choosing wealth today. I mean, why wait? If the actions that you do today can make your life better and easier a month from now or a year from now, why wait? If choosing wealth today means that you give your children and your children's children and the next generations a better future and more wealth that was founded on your good values, why would you wait? It's never too late to get started. And if you're watching this video, then it means you're not gravely disadvantaged. You've got access to the internet. It means that unlike the poorest 10%, you have access to this information. And that means you have the choice to choose wealth starting today. And that wraps it up for rule number 4. Wealth is compounding. Begin today. Let's summarize today's lesson. Today, you learned that wealth is a choice, but often it's the harder choice to make. It requires the values of hard work, discipline, and delayed gratification. It requires persistence and determination during the pursuit of a better life. Wealth is the harder choice, but we choose wealth anyway because it's the right and moral thing to do, because it makes us better people. The good news is, because of compounding, these hard choices actually become easier to make over the long term. That the more you improve your money skills, the more opportunities open up and the easier the journey becomes. With this, I'd like to invite you to begin choosing wealth today. And the way to start is to fill out this lesson's worksheet. Below this video, you will find what I call the MCASH assessment. MCASH stands for Money, Knowledge, Attitudes, Skills, and Habits. This is a list of everything you need to know in order to reach financial security, freedom, and abundance. And the reason why this assessment is so valuable is because so many financial problems are often caused by the things you don't know about money. And this assessment is an opportunity to find out what you don't know yet. It's a series of simple yes or no questions, but it will reveal to you exactly where else you need to improve on based on your score and what else you need to learn. There's a download link below this video. Click on it, download it, print it, and answer it, and learn what you can do better based on your score. Now, if this video has served you and you're thinking, I'm ready to start choosing wealth today, I'm ready to invest and learn and grow my skills, and you're excited to see the results manifest in your life, then please make sure to watch the next lesson, which will be sent to your email. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about the progression to wealth. You learn about how do you measure wealth, and among the many different money skills, which one should you focus first? And in the next video, you're going to learn the path that you can follow to reach financial security, freedom, and abundance, no matter where you are starting from. You'll learn all that and more in the next lesson. And once again, a request. If you love this video, if you think its message deserves to be shared, then send it to a friend, family member, in a conversation, or in your social media platform of choice. I truly believe that having more people strive for wealth and choose wealth, but not just for wealth's sake, but in order to live out their good values, it will make this world a better place. And it's with your help that we can reach more people with the message of financial education based on values. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the worksheets and in the next lesson.